So we talked about an animal cell, we talked about all the cell organelles, so now let's come in and let's make a contrast here, and let's talk about the plant cell. Okay, what's the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell? Well, if you remember in the animal cell, okay, in the animal cell I drew the cell membrane just in a circle there, okay? Well, here's the thing about a plant cell. The difference between a plant cell and an animal cell is that a plant cell has a cell wall, okay? So, once again, look at what we have here, okay? And I got a head start on you drawing this, okay? So this area here, all of this, okay? All of this is where this cell is going to connect to the next one. But all of this area in here, okay, all of this area around here, okay, is called a cell wall. So it's kind of interesting because what that does, and we'll come in and talk about that, okay, and we'll talk about the other differences in a plant cell and an animal cell, but the cell wall makes it rigid. Rigid means that if we look at an animal cell, okay, if we were gonna, the best way to do this is let's talk about eating plants and eating meat, okay? When we eat meat, we chew and we chew and we chew, and we break down this cell membrane. But when we eat plants, they tend to crunch, okay? All right, they're rigid, okay? They're rigid. Now, there's three reasons for that, okay? There's three reasons for that. It has to do with the whole process of photosynthesis that we were talking about. So here's this cell wall on the outside, okay? But we still have a cell membrane. So right inside of the cell wall, we still have this cell membrane, okay? And we have all of the cell organelles that we have in the plant. We have the vacuoles, we have the nucleus, we have the nucleolus, we have the vacuoles, we have remember what this one was, the endoplasmic reticulum, okay? With the ribosomes on it, we have that. Now, here's the thing I wanted to tell you too. Endoplasmic reticulum, there's two types of endoplasmic reticulum. It's called rough and it's called smooth. So if there's no ribosomes that have grown on it, we call the endoplasmic reticulum smooth because there's no little dots. When you look at them under a microscope, you can literally see the dots, you can see the ribosomes growing on the endoplasmic reticulum. So if we had an endoplasmic reticulum, here's the nucleus, the nucleolus. If we had an endoplasmic reticulum that looked like this without any ribosomes, that's called smooth endoplasmic reticulum. If we have the ribosomes on there, then it's called rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, why would that be important? Okay, that's really important because remember we need the ribosomes to make what? We need the ribosomes to make protein. And what do the proteins do? They make new cells. So when we have smooth endoplasmic reticulum, we're not in a stage to make the new cells yet, okay? We still have to develop those ribosomes. So here we go, we've got all these things. We still have mitochondria in here. Remember the little football thing? We still have mitochondria. But the difference between the plant cell, okay, the difference between the plant cell and the animal cell, the difference is it has a cell wall, okay, it has a cell wall. And then there's another cell organelle that's inside of the plant, okay? Now, this one's kind of interesting, okay? This one's kind of interesting. It's similar to a mitochondria, okay? Except that it's kind of a round, kind of a round-looking, tube-looking thing, okay? All right, and it's green, okay? It's green in color. All right. And I don't know if you know what that is, but that's actually called the chloroplast. C-H-L-O-R-O-P-L-A-S-T. The chloroplast is what actually absorbs the light. Remember in photosynthesis, remember we covered that earlier because it was so important, okay, that in the presence of light, okay, it made the glucose, and so it made the glucose, made the oxygen. So these chloroplasts that are located throughout the cell here, okay, all right, causes that plant to be green, okay. So these chloroplasts are all the way through there, and that causes the plant to be green, okay. So why is a So why is a plant cell green? Because it contains chloroplast, okay? Now what does the chloroplast do? The chloroplast absorbs the sunlight to carry on photosynthesis, okay? Once again, remember photosynthesis, we're talking Latin again. Photo means light, synthesis means to be able to make. So we take the light, photo, we synthesize it, we make glucose, and we make oxygen, and we make water. So isn't that amazing? Because we have to have plants, okay, because we need the plant sugars, the glucose, we have to have the oxygen, we have to have the water, and it's actually made within the plant cell. So isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? Now, I will tell you this, the other thing is that the cell wall, there's a big difference here, in that this cell wall lets very, very few things come into the plant. The cell membrane of an animal cell lets things come in and out, but a plant cell doesn't let many things come in and out. Now, I want to talk to you about what we've learned. Okay, we've learned that there are some things like I don't know if you've ever heard of the weed killer Roundup. Okay, but we started going, oh wow, that kills plants. Okay, let me show you how Roundup works. Okay, I'm not against Roundup, but we have found that eating crops that have had Roundup on it, okay, that we have to be careful, that we have to study those crops and make sure that it's not carried over into the food we eat. So what happens is Roundup goes in, okay, and Roundup actually, it's not just Roundup, there's a lot of things. Back in Vietnam they had something called Agent Orange. And Agent Orange was this, a pesticide kills animals, okay? A herbicide kills plants. So if you're going to spray for bugs, that's a pesticide, okay? But if you're going to spray for weeds, okay, or you're going to spray to kill plants, that's called a herbicide, okay? So herb meaning the Latin word for plant. So what happens is in Vietnam we have something called Agent Orange, and here we were. I don't know how your history is, but in Vietnam we went into the jungles where there was all these canopies of vines and trees, and the snipers, the soldiers were going in, and all the snipers were hiding up in all the trees and hiding in all the vines and hiding in this forested area, and we couldn't see them. And so we were getting, a lot of the guys were getting sniped off. And so we thought, man, if we could just see the snipers, we would know where they're at. So it was getting so bad, we had to come up with something. So the scientists developed something called Agent Orange, and they said, this is something that will kill the plants right away. So we came in Vietnam, and our soldiers came in with these backpacks on their back, and they started spraying all the plants. And within minutes, the plants would die. So we just went through and we started killing all these plants. And right away, if there was guys in there, they took off running, and they would have a guy go out ahead of them with this Agent Orange and kill all the leaves and all the plants, so that as we walked through, we could see if there was any enemy hiding, any snipers hiding. Well, that was a great discovery. Okay, that was a great discovery because it saved a lot of lives. But we found out later that Agent Orange seemed to be something that's bad in our system. And let me show you why you hear these things. So once again, I don't want to make Roundup, sound like it's the ultimate worst thing. But we're finding out that we've got to be careful with Roundup. Okay, and you're going to hear things a lot more in your lifetime about pesticides and herbicides. So what happens is, just use this Agent Orange. Agent Orange was something that could penetrate. Agent Orange was something that could penetrate. So this is called Agent Orange. So Agent Orange was this chemical, okay? Well, the chemical, what could the chemical do? It was strong enough to penetrate the cell wall and go in and do what? It actually dissolved the nucleus. Oh, it actually went in and dissolved, isn't this crazy? When it actually went in and dissolved the nucleus and began to change the DNA inside the nucleus, so that cell automatically died. There's no more life in that cell. And then whenever it tried to reproduce, it couldn't, or tried to split. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So whenever the cell tried to go through mitosis, okay, then the cell couldn't divide. And it just died right away. Well, here's the problem. Here's the problem. if that goes in and destroys the nucleus, all right, then what happened was we found that Agent Orange, that some of these guys begin to do what? Breathe in the mist of the Agent Orange, or they came in contact with some of these cells that had Agent Orange, and we're finding a lot of these guys came back and they began to get cancer. Well, cancer means that, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit too. Cancer means that the DNA does not work properly. The DNA is going to tell the cell exactly what it's supposed to do. If I've got a skin cell and I've got skin cancer, then it doesn't become a skin cell. The DNA didn't tell it, somehow have a malfunction and made the wrong cell. It didn't make a different kind of cell, it just made an inaccurate cell, a non-efficient cell. So this Agent Orange, so we find that Roundup does the same thing. It goes into the cell wall and begins to destroy the nucleus. So the problem is it does the same thing in our body. So, we have all these cautions and all these things that you shouldn't, you got to wear gloves, you got to be careful. But when we begin to understand that, it makes more sense. The cell membrane is trying to keep that out, okay? But that's these pesticides and these herbicides are made to sneak past the cell membrane in animals and sneak past the cell wall in plants. So, going to kind of close this one up. That was kind of an interesting deal on the pesticides and the herbicides. But what we really need to know too is that on the plant cell that we have a cell wall, okay, and we have the chloroplast. So that's the biggest two difference in a plant cell and animal cells. We have a cell wall and we have a chloroplast. And remember that the chloroplast actually absorb the sun to make photosynthesis work.